Thanks, Hannah. It was certainly a privilege to compete in the discussion meet contest, and I'm appreciative of all the support from Ohio Farm Bureau members and staff as I represented our state on the national level. Now, the four individuals you're about to meet have already invested many hours of preparation for this competition. It's a challenging contest to navigate, but the skills gained through this experience are incredibly valuable as the competitors advance their careers and future involvement in Farm Bureau. The four competitors have taken their seats on stage, and they are Abby Campbell of Washington County, Cameron Reinhart of Fayette County, Kendall Lovejoy of Fulton County, and Kane Lewis of Scioto County. Competitors, go ahead. Competitors, you may now begin writing. The discussion meet contest simulates a committee meeting in which ideas and information are exchanged. It's not a debate. Even though it's a competition with a winner, the contestants must work together to analyze the problem, offer innovative solutions, and shape a path towards achieving those solutions. Active participation and thoughtful discussion are not only encouraged, but expected. Now, our topic for tonight's contest is particularly relevant to just about everyone in this room. I encourage all of us here tonight to listen carefully to what our competitors discuss. Not only will the information shared be used to determine who the winner will be, but I expect each of us will hear some valuable information that we can take back to help our own home operations be more successful. Tonight's topic is as follows. Production agriculture requires a lot of capital. Young farmers and ranchers face challenges in gaining access to the capital they need to start or grow their operations. What tools are currently available, and what new programs could be introduced to help young people access financial resources and make sound financial decisions to run their farms and ranches? I encourage you to engage in a spirited, respectful, and dynamic exchange of ideas. Competitors, in voluntary order, you may each make your 30-second opening statement.
The American Farm Bureau reports that 25% of the 2 million plus farms and ranches in the United States are owned and operated by young and beginning farmers. The average age of the American farmer is 57 years old. Myself, like many of you in this room, understand the challenge of attaining the capital needed to start or extend a farming operation. I'm looking forward to a robust conversation today about how we as Farm Bureau can truly make a difference for the next generation to provide the food, fiber, and fuel needed for our growing world.
New and beginning farmers are facing challenges that they have never faced before. We're facing financial situations that we have not found ourselves in prior years. Financial institutions, government agencies, and the agricultural industry must work together and collaborate to create and expand existing programs. Programs like Farm Credit Mid-America's Growing Forward program can help lead us out of some of these challenging times, and I look forward to a great conversation with you all on how Farm Bureau can invest more time and resources.
Hey everybody, I hope you liked the discussion meet today. I know that we have so many amazing programs out there to help, and I know that we're going to talk about that today. So if you do have a farm, just please listen, because we have definitely put our time and effort into talking about this.
I believe in the future of agriculture. These time-honored words from the FFA would sound a lot different if they were followed by, I believe in high interest rates, long-term debt, and volatile markets and input costs. But for young farmers and ranchers, this is the reality. I look forward to discussing with you today the existing programs and funding opportunities available for young farmers and ranchers, and talking about how we can expand and develop those programs and create new ones so we can create the legacy for the next generation, our generation.
All right, we've heard the opening statements, and at this time I'll invite our competitors to engage in 25 minutes of open discussion.
I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to talk to all of you today, and I'd like to get started by thinking about what current program do you find to be most impactful in obtaining this capital that is such a big need for young farmers and ranchers?
I think before we can really talk about what programs are most impactful, we need to talk about the challenges that are being faced by young farmers and ranchers, and not even just young, but new beginning farmers too. Because, I mean, just because we're between the ages of 18 to 35, there's people out there 50, 60 years old who are just just starting in their agricultural endeavors, right? So we need to talk about those challenges. So I'd like to hear, what challenges are we really facing? I mean, as someone coming from a non-production agriculture background, looking on how I can get involved in that, the financial capital alone that I would need to get engaged is just not doable right now.
Well, I think the biggest thing is like, if you are starting out anything, starting a business, you got to treat your farm like a business. If you're not having good records, keeping up with, oh, am I actually making money or am I losing money? You wouldn't believe the amount of people like with Extension that I see that don't keep good records and don't know where they're losing money and don't know what they can write off with taxes or what they can't. If you are not putting your time and effort into that, I think you should not be even looking for it, because if you're not going to put that time in on the computer, then you shouldn't be a farmer, because that's the world that we live in today. It's sad, but it's true.
I appreciate those thoughts, Kane. I think you brought up a really good point about how there's education requirements, and you have to know what you're doing before you step into the gauntlet and really get into these capital resources and start asking for credit and asking for loans. Each of these programs requires an educational component, but we're still missing something. It's still not quite there, because we're obviously seeing these issues still today. We're finding these capital. I think for me in my area, we're really focused in production agriculture and row crops. High land prices are real, and it's very difficult. I was speaking with a lender here recently, and it doesn't cash flow. I can't go out and purchase the ground that was just sold this last week at auction and expect to make money this year. I don't have other assets to back it. And so we need to look at different avenues to access these resources.
And
We've
absolutely,
identified that education is an issue across the board here. But I think, speaking to Cameron's point, that we can shift our focus a little bit from, we think about young and beginning farmers, they're not going to start with a 2,000 acre row crop production.
Right.
I'm not from there originally, but now I live in southeastern Ohio in the hills of Appalachia. And one thing that I've learned is that you have to be a little creative when it comes to agriculture. And Rural Action has developed a mentorship program where farmers are able to go to this trusted, transparent mentor and talk to them about anything from honeybees to mushrooms to direct sales. In fact, in Washington County, the Women in Ag Forum, the #1 topic that was discussed is direct marketing. And so maybe we think about education in a different light about how we can make our capital work for us and what we currently have. And we can still make a difference in agriculture, even if it's a small operation.
Abby, you bring up a great point, and I think that some of these programs, such as the one you just mentioned, but also Farm Credit's Growing Forward program, I mean, that program, you are engaged from the day one, and you're working hands-on with an expert in that area. You're not only gaining the resources that you need at the lowest rates, right? I mean, they're helping you by giving you tier 1 rates in that program, but they're bringing you to a mandatory in-person conference. They're educating you on budgets. They're making you build out marketing plans. They're helping you build a profile ready to be successful. So programs like that can really benefit new and beginning farmers.
I appreciate that, Cameron. I think that going back to what you said earlier, and Abby, you're sharing about just the difference between new and beginning farmers and young and new farmers. If you look at the data, the new and beginning farmers, the highest concentration population in the state of Ohio is in Franklin and Cuyahoga counties, urban counties. And so, yes, agriculture isn't just the 2,000 acre row crop farmers. It's those unique niche opportunities to create your own product and maybe go direct to consumer as well.
And I think that's the best thing that as farmers we have, is there's so many different opportunities that we can learn. There's so many different programs out there that we can learn about different ways. And yes, I'm from Appalachia too, and you got to use your hills to your advantage. You can grow so many different things. You can raise different livestock, and that's the biggest thing. Is we could talk about programs all day long, but if you have to put in the work, I think that's the biggest thing. Is a lot of people just think it's going to be handed to them, and if you're not going out and putting in the work, if you're not getting on Marketplace at 2 a.m. and looking for that deal on that tractor, then you might not find it. If you're not doing that kind of stuff, then you might not be able to make it.
Kendall, you bring up a great point about urban agriculture, and we're seeing a huge rise in urban agriculture here in Ohio, but nationwide as well. I mean, urban agricultural education programs are on the rise. 4-H is seeing an increase in urban ag programs. So I think that a lot of our new and beginning, and young, as you mentioned, because you're right, new and beginning is different from young and beginning farmers. And when you think about young and beginning farmers, a lot of them are going into those niche marketplaces, and we need to be ready as Farm Bureau and the agricultural industry to support the niche farming and not just the row crop farming. While both are absolutely necessary, we have to make sure that we are providing opportunities that are open to everyone and inclusive of all young and beginning farmers.
As an agricultural educator, I can definitely attest to your point, Cameron. 97% of the students in the United States will take a science class, but only 3% will take an agricultural education class. So not only do we need to fill over 470,000 jobs in agribusiness in the next 10 years, but we also have to think about, the increase in our population, the food, fiber, and fuel that we're going to need. It's not going to come from our traditional ag students all the time. So I know, FSA loans for youth is something that a lot of my students take advantage of to take projects to the fair. Farm Credit has a lot of programs where they're working and coming into classrooms and talking to students, but maybe we should expand beyond, I'm going to hit the ag class or the 4-H group, and think about some of these other students who they might have an interest in agriculture, they just don't realize it yet.
Absolutely. And I think Ohio Farm Bureau is doing that through our Explore Ag program, right? I mean, we are opening the door to youth in urban areas, but all realms and all walks of life in the state of Ohio, and introducing them to ag, food science, biotechnology, industrial engineering. Some people think of those as disciplines that are by themselves, but we can tie all of that back to agriculture. So even if someone wants to be a scientist, let them be a scientist in ag, and let's get them started, right? So how can we further develop programs to support new, young, beginning farmers and support them both in a capital investment realm, but how do we support their growing education as well? Because students in my classroom right now, they're in their college years and they still aren't quite sure what they want to do.
This is how we make our Ohio Farm Bureau membership work for us. There are so many agricultural organizations like Farm Credit, like FSA, like our Natural Resource Conservation Service that are providing different types of financial tools. Ohio Farm Bureau can be a leader in this issue by gathering all of these tools into one resource hub. It could be a page on our website where young ag professionals can get online and see all of these options. My husband and I took advantage of a Natural Resource Conservation Service EQIP grant to install, in the process of installing a hoop house on our farm to extend the growing season for our cut flowers and produce. We only heard of this grant through natural conversation with our county Farm Bureau president. Ohio Farm Bureau can train our local leaders, our local community leaders about the different financial programs, and then allow for them to, through their natural grassroots networking and policy, have those conversations. John Maxwell tells us that leadership is influence, and we're more likely to listen to someone if we're able to have that casual, natural conversation and seek them out for advice. What are our thoughts on the opportunities of combining these resources on one website and training our local Farm Bureau leaders on the different financial programs that are currently available?
I think the training is amazing. Yeah, putting it on the website's awesome. You have to go out there and talk to them. Like you said, you wouldn't have heard of it unless you physical conversation, because a lot of people definitely wouldn't just go to the website. They think just Farm Bureau, oh, that's just where we pay our dues and we don't do anything with. Because every time someone asks, why should I be in Farm Bureau? We should have, oh, this is why, because we have the resources for this, this, and this, and this. And if not, why we should have those trainings. Why do we not? In the sense of, because that's what makes us us. That's, like you said, that's the best part of us.
And go ahead, Kendall.
Abby and Kane, you guys bring up good points in that there's a gap between the communication aspects. So I think it's important that we highlight our issues. So we've talked about education, we've talked about capital access, and now we've talked about communication. All of these things are critical to the issue at hand and our discussion today. What other issues are we missing, I guess? Is there anything that needs to come to the table before we start talking about solutions and looking at how we can bring all these together into one package?
Kendall, you bring up a great point, and it leads into what I was about to say, that while we talk about communication, we talk about marketing, we talk about education, policy is action in Farm Bureau, and it's a grassroots effort, right? It starts at the county level, moves to the state, goes to the national, and right now, Ohio Farm Bureau has 5 pieces of policy in our policy book passed by the delegates this past winter, and American Farm Bureau has 4. 5 and 4. That is simply not enough for young and beginning farmers, and we need to be doing more. So as Farm Bureau leaders and young people engaged in this industry, what policies need to be in place that we can begin to talk about as we start to draw near thinking about solutions, right? Because these policies, as they're written, they are worded in a way that they support a widespread realm of things. They support new incentive programs. They support equal incentive programs, but they're not detailed. So how can we create new policy to support young and new beginning farmers?
I think it's just going out to everyone in this audience and talking to them and seeing what they need. I mean, that's exactly why we're here today, is to talk about what these farmers need. And it's our job to pass that along. Cameron, what's one policy that you think?
Absolutely. So one of the policies as written, it supports incentive programs, but increased and equal incentive programs. So equal as in whether or not you're starting a row crop farm or if you're going to go into honeybees, they're going to give you the same financial capital and you're going to have the same support either way. So we need to ensure that we're supporting everyone in an equitable way, right? Because as we mentioned, these young and new beginning farmers, they're going into niche program areas. So Abby, I'd be interested in hearing more about how your loan worked, and say, is that only specific to that type of farming that you're doing, or is that open to all areas of the agricultural sector?
Absolutely. So the NCRS EQIP program, which is the Environmental Quality Improvement Program, allows for you to implement different types of environmental quality practices and things on your farm, and in return you're able to get that capital to help install or expand that operation. And so through making sure that we're putting in soil conservation practices, we put in a wildflower plot, we're adding these different components to our hoop house so that we're able to really better the environment, better our farmland, but also in return we're able to make some money off of this program. And so I know that Ohio has beginning farmer tax credit. I know that the Ohio Department of Agriculture is starting a financial literacy training. Is actually that certification course is going to be taught in Washington County in February. And I also know in Washington County that our youngest pool of membership is under the age of 35, which is exactly who is here in this room with us today. And so, yes, we've identified all these issues, but I think it's time that we start thinking about, okay, what are we actually going to do next? Farm Bureau handles the policy for us, and we're able to have those grassroots conversations about the policy. But I'm interested in what we can do as young leaders in our community right now to start to make a difference on capital. Because if I'm not involved in the agricultural industry and I want to get started, or I don't have the capital to fulfill my dreams, I want to know what action steps I can take right here, right now to start my operation.
Our existing Farm Bureau policy focuses on a couple different areas. We've listed a couple different funding sources that we've all used personally or know of. So we got USDA through NRCS or FSA. We've got our local lending institutions, our local banks and credit unions. We've got the farm credit system, and then we've got private contracts. Looking through the Farm Bureau policy, it shows support of the farm credit system and the Ohio's Ag Link program, which offers a credit discount for young ag farmers. That's it. We've listed a lot of other financial resources and educational opportunities that we can throw into the policy right now to support and make other people aware of, right? Because we talked about communication being an issue. If Ohio Farm Bureau is launching those and promoting those with our key stakeholders, those programs that they have, I think that's a great opportunity that we can enact right now.
I think education to educate.
I think education is by far the next step, to answer you, Abby, because yeah, there is really good programs out there, but if we're not telling about it and how to use it, and how do you, like, bees, like you talked about beekeeping. If we don't have a beekeeping class, then how can these people get into beekeeping? If we don't have those non-main row crop, livestock classes to teach these people. Me and Kendall are with the Extension. We do this every day, is see what the people want. And I know that there's more exotic, like people want more exotic things because they know that's the bang for their buck on their area. We also put like a small farm college on, which is awesome. So it's like, if you inherit 20 acres, now what? What can you do with that? There's so many things that you can do that it can almost stress you out because you're like, well, I can go this way, I can go this way. What if this don't work out? But if we're not teaching them how to do that and just saying, oh, here's the money to do it, but we're not teaching them, then we're just giving them to the wolves.
Well, Abby mentioned the various institutions, right, that are providing some of that financial capital, but I think it has to start there. We need to educate some of our financial institutions, and maybe not some of the larger ones, but our local lenders. Like, some of people aren't aware of the AgLink program. As you mentioned, Kendall, I was speaking to a friend who works in agribusiness banking with Heartland Bank, and a majority of the customers between the ages of 18 to 35 don't know what AgLink is. Like, they don't even know that program exists. So how do we educate people about what programs are out there now, but also how do we help develop and expand these programs going forward? Like the AgLink program provides great resources.
So looking at farm households across the United States, 96% have at least one person on that farm who's getting income from elsewhere besides their agricultural operation. We are all familiar with that. My husband and I both teach. In addition to farming, it's our second full-time job. But when we think about, okay, when do I have time to pay attention to professional development? It's not at night, because right now I can tell you that we're in lambing season and that's all that's happening. But if I think about my lunch hour as a young professional, something that Ohio Farm Bureau could do would be providing 1 hour once a month financial literacy trainings over Zoom that anybody could join. You could encourage your local bank to join. You could encourage young and beginning farmers to join, and they can see what opportunities, what resources, where they can go for more information, and we're able to provide that input to Ohio Farm Bureau on what we want to learn. And so we're getting that professional development that we need. We're starting this process of encouraging others, even those outside of the agricultural realm, to learn about what we do and why we need this capital to get started.
I like that idea. And another idea that might come forward is we focus a lot on our Young Ag Professionals program in the state of Ohio, right? I mean, we changed the name from Young Farmers and Ranchers to Young Ag Professionals to include people in the entire sector as we start to diversify and expand. So maybe Ohio Farm Bureau needs to look into adding someone on the state staff team to support these types of programs, to help young and new beginning farmers in these programs, helping them find the correct resources, connecting them to the right person, because you might live in a rural county that doesn't have someone who's aware of these programs. And through my friends and my brother who has gotten a USDA loan, the support is not there. They get the USDA loan, they cut you a check, and they expect your payments forthwith. So we need to be providing support.
I think there's kind of a gap there. You brought up the USDA loans. A lot of those USDA loans for us younger people, us younger folk, require a continuing education component. And so Ohio State University offers that through the Farm On course or through small farm colleges like Kane and I put on. We teach you about the basics, the farm, how to manage a farm financially. But there's so much more that goes into running a farm. It is a business, no matter what it is, if it's honeybees or row crops. We can talk about business planning and creating a business plan. Are you prepared for what happens if plan A doesn't work? What's your plan B? What's your plan C? What are your goals, long-term, short-term, mid-term? Who's on your board of advisors, your theoretical board of advisors? I was challenged with this as I developed my own business coming home from college. Who's in my board of advisors? It's not, I don't meet with them. We don't come around a board table and have a meeting every day, but it's people that I can call and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help. Whether it's ag lending or crop insurance or my financial advisor or my grandpa who's been farming for 80 years, I can pick up that phone call and seek him out.
Kendall, you just made a really good point about mentors. And so if Ohio Farm Bureau can help assist in, a statewide mentorship program where these older or these retiring farmers can really take that wisdom and that expertise and pour it into young and beginning farmers, what would that look like? How could we make that work for the state of Ohio?
I'm glad you brought that up, Abby. It's actually in Ohio Farm Bureau policy, the mentorship program, connecting an experienced farmer with someone who wants to begin their operation so that they can have that cross-cultural. It's already in our policy. Where's the program? I personally don't know of it, and I think that's something that we can jump on right away with working with our state staff and our Young Ag Professionals group.
Well, I think that it is important to expand the work of Ohio Farm Bureau and expand what we're doing, and I think there's resources to be added and state staff members that could kind of focus some priority time on this. We really need, the wheels are created, the systems are out there, but how do we better those systems and how do we expand on those? I mean, our partners, we have a great relationship with USDA and Farm Credit Mid-America. So how can we get more people working in those programs because they're out there, but how can Farm Bureau partner with them, right? Because we don't have time, we don't have the next 3 years to develop a new program through Ohio Farm Bureau to really assist our young farmers, but we can work with Farm Credit to really push them and support them through.
I think all young ag professionals have to look at it as a competition as well. If we're going to move forward and get the ball rolling, you have to look at it as a business and you have to look at it as you want to do better than the other person. Another way to look at that is like your data and your balance sheet, and there's places out there like it's FinPac, and you put in your balance sheet, you put in your numbers, and it tells you what you compare to in the state. You can go and you can see that, oh, I should buy a tractor this year, or I shouldn't. I should sell something off. And that's a really, like, if you're not looking at it like that, then I don't think you should be farming, because you want to be the best farmer. I've always wanted to be the best farmer, and one day I will be. Sorry, guys, but that's something that you have to look forward, and that's one way to get the ball rolling, because competition's everything. And that's why we're doing it to here. That's why we're right here right now.
And members have to be motivated, right?
Yes.
Because these programs are out there, but you have to have the motivation to go through these programs, whether it be USDA or an NRCS or Farm Credit Mid-America. You have to be dedicated to doing this. And I think as we start to wind down our conversation, I think let's kind of talk about what action can we take tomorrow with our state staff. Maybe we need to create policy at the county level, and how can we work with our legislature too in Ohio going forward as action items to move this needle?
We identified that education and communication are key things that we need as a group. And so looking and moving forward, when we bring these conversations back to our home counties, I think we need to address the concept that we want to see this mentorship program be put into action. That's something that's really important to all of us, having that trusting relationship. Ohio Farm Bureau had great success with its agricultural literacy training that it offered. So can we do something similar with financial literacy training for those leaders to take back to their communities, so we can really start at the grassroots that Farm Bureau is known for? And then how can we get these resources compiled into one spot and get this regular professional development rolling? I know everyone's really busy. Cameron identified that it's hard to get these new programs started, but can we start with getting everybody in the same room? Can we start with getting data from the young farmers that are currently part of our membership, really getting to what do they want out of this membership and how can we meet their needs for capital?
I think a statewide survey, a SWOT analysis, right? I think a statewide SWOT analysis of our young population will really help identify some valuable data that Ohio Farm Bureau can use going forward in creating programs. And again, with the education communication, that starts with the county levels, but that ultimately we've got to get something set up at the state level to distribute to the county level, because organization directors don't have time to develop these new programs. So we've got to work on it.
I completely agree. We got to get that data, and then we got to spread it, because it's great to have the numbers, but we have to distribute.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Kendall?
I think a takeaway for me, I think that one large area that we highlighted is policy. There's existing Farm Bureau policy that's great. There's existing Farm Bureau policy that needs a little bit of work, or we need to figure out where it's at and bring those, like that mentorship program, bring it into perspective. And we need to add, we need to increase, because that policy list is short. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Cameron. I appreciate you bringing that up.
And
Cameron, I was interested to ask you personally, what capital challenges have you faced, and where do you see this going forward?
Absolutely. As someone who wants to come back, and I didn't come from a row crop farm, right? I didn't come from a production ag background. So even getting started is going to take a large capital investment. So looking at some of these programs, I don't qualify for them because I can't make that financial commitment up front, and I don't have the background in that. So what programs are out there to help me as literally a new production agriculturalist out there? And I'll tell you what, Abby, the best program for me is going to be going through the Farm Credit System, because they have that opportunity in those niche markets. So as someone who wants to be new and young and beginning, then that's the best route for me right now. But Farm Bureau, I wish there was more out there policy-wise and action-wise on the state level to assist me in that, because I still need a lot of support.
I think Abby is a perfect example of a young ag professional. Just because you work in agriculture at school all day, and then you, like you said, it's a full-time job both ways. And I think that's something that we have to realize as we tell these people that, hey, we want you guys to get into agriculture, is that it's going to be full-time, but it's also, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And we know that you can do good and you can take with what you have. You don't have to have a lot up front.
I know that Ohio Farm Bureau is shifting its mission statement to a series of pillars. And two of those pillars is advancing on-farm trends, or analyzing market trends, and advancing what you can do on your own farm. And so thinking about what those pillars are, how we can leverage them, where we're moving forward as an organization. Market trends is something that we identified. Niche market, direct market to consumer is going to be really where we continue to move forward. The pandemic showed us that people want their food close to home, and beginning agriculturalists shouldn't be daunted with the concept of having to go to 0 to 100, but being able to start providing for themselves with all these backyard projects that I'm sure as extension agents students you get a lot of phone calls about.
Absolutely. We're not just wearing Farm Bureau hats. We're going back to the office Monday, and we got work to do. I look forward to going back to the extension and sharing our discussion today and seeing how we can improve the existing program we already have in place to help the new and beginning farmers. The
Absolutely,
education
Kendall.
program
And I
we have.
think I look forward to putting some of this ideas to action.
Great talk, guys.
Thank you, competitors, for the lively discussion. You'll now have 1 minute of silence to prepare your closing remarks. Time. At this time, competitors, in voluntary order, please give your 1 minute closing statements.
I really appreciate our conversation today. I think this issue is very real and very impactful, and so I appreciate our thoughts here. We did a really good job at outlining the issues, that framework, the financial and access to capital that young farmers and ranchers are facing. We talked about the communication, capital access, and the education, the lack of resources or the need for improvement in each of those resources. And then we talked about real solutions. We talked about how we can increase our role as Farm Bureau members in establishing policy and revamping the current policy we have at the state. We talked about a mentorship program and connecting older generations with the new generation and allowing them the opportunity to pass the torch, per se. And we talked about adding support, not only on our state staff, but in each of our own organizations and beyond, so that young farmers and ranchers are recognized and appreciated for the work they're doing and trying to begin their journey. I look forward to the work that is to come from today's conversation. I thank you all for your conversation and look forward to the work ahead.
Thank you guys for the conversation. It was a lot of fun. We've wanted to talk about this the whole time that we've been together, so that was a lot of fun. Farming's fun. I think everyone knows that who's in this room. It is so much fun. It's hard, but it's fun. It's your guys' job now, too. Now that we've talked about it, you guys heard the conversation. Please go out and help us so we can grow and we can do better. I want to talk about my buddy Gunner. He's actually here. Wasn't going to talk about this, but he started this little farm when he was in college, and it's growing, and he gets on Marketplace and buys all this small equipment. And it's really funny because it's not that brand new sprayer, but with auto steer, but it's something. And you can do, if he can do it, trust me, you guys can too. Ag is and will ever be the future. Thank you guys.
We established early on that capital is a real issue for young farmers and ranchers and something that affects many of us personally. Cade and Kendall, your insight as extension educators is invaluable, talking about educational programs and how oftentimes communication about what's out there is the biggest obstacle. Cameron, your insight on policy and how it affects you personally, not coming from an agricultural background, not having programs available to you, also added to the conversation. Ohio Farm Bureau has the opportunity to be a leader in this issue that's not going away anytime soon, whether it comes to collecting our resources, mentorship programs, professional development, and education at an early age. I'm looking forward to continuing these conversations within our local county farm bureaus and working together for a solution that's going to allow us to continue to be at the forefront of the agricultural industry and the next generation of leaders to truly make an impact.
As someone who comes from a non-traditional agricultural background and who strives to get back to Ohio, to Fayette County, and begin their role in production agriculture, these programs couldn't be more meaningful and valuable to me. We had a great conversation today, and I think that we can all conclude that education, communication, and partnerships are our way forward through this. Ohio Farm Bureau, we as leaders in Ohio Farm Bureau can continue to educate, communicate, and collaborate in order to get this done. We have to advance the mission of Ohio Farm Bureau, but we have to advance these programs for the benefit of everyone sitting in this room and all new and young beginning farmers. Financial institutions, government agencies, and agricultural industry have to collaborate, and I look forward to putting this talk into action and creating new policies within the Ohio Farm Bureau and the American Farm Bureau. Thank you.
All right, this concludes the scored portion of the contest. At this time, judges may please exit the room and proceed to the tabulation room. As our judges exit, let's give a round of applause to our competitors.
Good job, guys.
Now that the contest is concluded, let's learn a little bit about each of our competitors. In voluntary order, please briefly introduce yourselves to the audience.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cameron Reinhart. I am a member of the Fayette County Farm Bureau, and I've been a member for 8 years. I've had the opportunity to serve on the Fayette County Farm Bureau Board as its president, and I served on the state YAP committee a few years back and was humbled to serve as the co-chair during my time. I've been engaged in the agricultural industry since I was a little kid, just not from one of those non-traditional backgrounds. I grew up involved in 4-H and FFA, went to Wilmington College, went on to get my master's degree at The Ohio State University, and I'm currently working on finishing up my PhD at Texas Tech University. In my free time, I operate Rural Beans Roastery, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today. I love this conference, and if you're available at 7:30 tomorrow morning, please come to my coffee session. I'd love to have you.
We can just go down the line here. Hi, I'm Abby Campbell. I'm an agricultural educator and FFA advisor from Washington County. My husband and I are part of his 4th generation sheep and swine operation. A few years back, we decided that we really wanted to make our own mark on the operation and started raising cut flowers, pumpkins, and produce and selling those directly to the consumer through different farmers markets within our area. We also actually took the plunge and purchased a building that now sits on our property where we actually operate by the honor system. Scary, I know, but allows for people to come in and buy those products as well as meat from our sheep and our pigs. And so we've really kind of designed this agricultural operation to fit around our busy lifestyle. My husband's also an agricultural educator, so that makes things interesting. I graduated from The Ohio State University, received my master's degree from the University of Kentucky, and we have 2 lovely fur children, a cat named Leo and a corgi named Reba. So that's me.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kendall Lovejoy. I am from the Fulton County Farm Bureau. I've been a member there for about 2 years now, ever since I come home from school. When I'm not a Farm Bureau member, I serve as a county extension agent, agriculture and natural resources up in Fulton County, my home county. It's one of the best jobs in the world. I'm truly blessed to work with the farmers that I get to do every day and represent our industry. When I'm not there, I'm a master's student at The Ohio State University, getting my master's in plant health management degree. I received a bachelor's in ag business from Grace College, located in Indiana, before coming home and taking that adventure. When I'm not as an extension agent, I work on a neighbor's farm and do a little bit of cash rent farm myself. And then when I'm not doing that, I raise a few hogs for direct-to-consumer sale as well.
You sound country. My name is Kane Lewis. I graduated from the Wilmington College. I'm also an A&R educator in Scioto County, the best county around, in my opinion. I'm a 5th generation farmer. We just have soybeans and corn. 2019, I was in an accident where I fell from a tree stand and I became paralyzed, and that's kind of hence the wheelchair. I was blessed to be a part of the program AgriAbility. I like talking about it a lot every time I get a chance. It's an opportunity where it makes disabled farmers back to be able to farm again. I'm able to plant all of our beans, harvest all of our crops. It's awesome. So if you guys know of anybody, AgriAbility, look it up. In my free time, I'm usually in the woods. I like hunting, fishing. Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right, please join me one more time in congratulating our competitors for their time, expertise, and dedication.